Giants, favored by a field goal in Dallas in America's Game of the Week on Fox. Cowboys escaped with a win in Pittsburgh last week, even though Dak turned the ball over 3 times. Lions looking to go into Dallas, make themselves a sandwich, bro. Here's Dak Prescott.
Yeah, they are.
It would be huge. We've got to get this one at home as well. No way that we can, can't even say it, but there's no way at home we can drop another home game. So want the Dallas fans to come in expecting to win, bring everything that they can, all the positive energy and vibes, and we've got to produce.
Okay, Brou, can a Dallas win make you a believer?
Well, you said Detroit's going to make a sandwich. Guess what? The deli is open, all right? The deli is open. Now, for the sake of your question, if the Cowboys win, which I don't think they will, and I'll admit this, Nick, it's hard to see Dallas, which was great at home last year.
16 straight.
Yeah, undefeated. Lose 3 straight at home to start the season. That is... Like, man, that's a reach.
Yeah.
But I think Detroit is just too good, especially with Dallas being banged up. What can they do, though, for my thoughts on the Cowboys? If they win, they will gain my respect.
Oh.
They will get they've done nothing this season to get my respect.
Going to Pittsburgh on national TV means nothing.
They beat up a lost Cleveland team.
Sure.
Absolutely lost team. They beat 2 mediocre teams. Pittsburgh, let's be honest. So we think they're mediocre. I know they were 3-1. We think they're mediocre.
Wins in Pittsburgh under Mike Tomlin are good wins. Can we just agree with that?
I didn't say it was a bad one. First of all, they won on the last play.
That's the NFL, man. It's like I get it, man. Matt Stafford doesn't have a Super Bowl if not a Jaquasti.
You're right about
and
that.
And Mahomes is over 3 in Super Bowls if not for
you finally admitted
I get it. No, that's the sport, bro.
The Giants.
Every
Did
game
they
is
look
close.
great against the Giants? No. They stepped up in their weight class and got smacked. All right, last time they played a top team. All right, Baltimore. Oh, they came back. I put that more on the Ravens falling asleep than the Cowboys waking up. No, I do. I mean, Nick, the Ravens beat them up and down the field for 3 quarters and then let their foot off the gas, as they've done with 10 teams over the last year and a half, and the Cowboys made it look respectable. Then New Orleans, which...
You know what's funny? That Nick's getting so angry about this, but when the Chiefs just barely win, right? When they just win by a field goal or whatever it may be over like the 49ers or any of these other teams, it's the Chiefs were dominant. The 49ers never had a chance. They're not even remotely on their level. And we know he doesn't think that they're on that level because he literally has his tiers and rankings. So, but again, when he's talking about a team that he likes, the Chiefs or the Cowboys, it's proof this was a big win. This was a moment. It's proof that they're light years better. But when it's a team that he doesn't like, they won by a field goal. This team is supposed to have the most high-powered offense. The 49ers should have been able to win this game by 14 points, not just 6, like whatever it may be. So it's just like that level of inconsistency. Gotta love it.
Isn't even any good.
No, that was
Beat
terrible
the
loss.
heck out of them.
That was terrible.
All right, if they win this game, I will respect them as a good team. So right now, it'll be the first time this year they've beaten somebody who is not either a tomato can or tomato can adjacent.
Okay.
And I would say the Steelers and the Giants are tomato can adjacent.
Okay. All right. If this, then everyone in the league.
I'm supposed to fall in love with them?
No, but it can't be.
I don't think they're that good.
It can't be a 32-team league and 25 of the teams when you beat them, it means nothing. It can't be that. I understand saying Cleveland might end up being the worst team in the league. If it's on the board of outcomes that you could have the #1 pick of the draft and we want to discount wins against you, I think that's totally fair. But we are going to, I think, on today's show at some point, talk about the fact that some people think the Giants can beat the Bengals and end their season and get to 500. Sure. We just laid flowers at the feet of Washington. The day after that game, we said the Giants would have beaten them if their kicker didn't tear his hamstring or whatever he did in the first play. It is not every
game. When New Orleans beat Dallas like a drum, did you give them any credit? No. You were like, no, they're a bad team because you don't like the roster. I don't like the Cowboys roster.
Okay, all right. So that is fine. That I think that is totally.
That is hilarious. Thank you, Chris Broussard. Because also, right, the Eagles beat the Packers. Oh, the Packers aren't as good as people think they do. The Saints steamroll the Cowboys. That was a fluke, right? The 49ers beat the Jets. Well, the Jets are trash. They're not really that good. Aaron Rodgers looks old and slow. Like that's why they have the moving of the goalpost all the time, because and I understand what Nick is also saying, but Nick himself ranks the teams, and look at the way how he labels the teams. Over 50% of the labels are you're bad, you're bad, you're bad, you're bad, and then it's not until top. In fact, he literally had the rankings where finally a good team. It's only, according to Nick, only 3 teams in the NFL right now are good. All the other teams are kind of and he's already eliminating teams. So Brou is playing by those same rules then. He's playing by the same rules. You know, I mean, even when the Chiefs beat the Saints, he said the Saints are just trash and awful. He keeps saying that the Minnesota Vikings fans and Sam Darnold is a pumpkin and it will collapse, right? Like, he's the one that is saying it as well. So Brou is playing by the same rules. And yes, you do consider who you're playing, and different games can age differently. They can matter differently depending on how they're playing at that time. The Giants were not playing well. Maybe they're starting to play better. I don't know. You know, we'll have to wait and see. Maybe they will end up being better. Seattle Seahawks got off to a strong start. Now they've dropped 3 in a row. Pittsburgh Steelers were started off, 3-0 or whatever it was. Nobody really thought that they were this great, unbelievable team. I mean, if you did, you were confused. You weren't really watching those games, and you could see who they beat. Not great teams, which I've been over again and again and again. And again, you know, the Cowboys tried to celebrate beating the Cleveland Browns as that was the biggest thing, and people attack me. Go back to the week 1. Reading those comments would be hilarious. People were yelling at me and arguing with me until they're blue in the face, saying that defense is a top defense in the NFL, and how they were a top defense last year, and how Deshaun Watson's a top quarterback. How has that looked right now? Has that defense been a top defense? The answer is an emphatic no. So things age differently at different times. That is football. That is why we watch the content that we create, and why it changes as it goes on. Otherwise, we would reach our conclusions week 1 and we'd say, all right, I'll see you in January. Like, that is something that people, I just talked about this. I literally went on a rant on this in a previous video. Like, that is what people keep getting lost into. And Nick is pointing it out, and understandably so to a degree, but he just picks and chooses. I'll tell you when teams are trash when it's time for me to do my rankings. I'll tell you what teams are trash when a team that I don't like beats that trash team, but when a team that I do like beats that trash team. We can't just say that all these teams are trash. Doesn't make sense. None. Zero.
More legitimate than explaining why the wins don't count. To just be like, you know what? But by that metric, then this win shouldn't matter if you don't like the roster. If it's like, no, it wouldn't matter.
Well, I told you, I give him some respect for being banged up and beating a good team, but it's not going to make me think, oh my gosh, they might win the NFC.
Beating the Detroit Lions to win your 3rd straight game after winning a road divisional game, and then going to Mike Tomlin's house and beating a 3-1 Steelers team, and then beating a Lions team coming off a bye to get to, at worst, or at best and worst, the 2nd best record in your conference, doesn't make one a believer, then nothing will.
Hold on. But here's the thing. If Philly did exactly what you just said, you wouldn't believe?
If Philly did what? If they won 3 straight games?
Yeah.
Philly's won 3 games in the last 6 months.
Since we're talking hypotheticals, if Philly did what you just said about the Cowboys, you wouldn't believe, because you don't believe in the team. So, I don't believe in the Cowboys. I think they can maybe make the playoffs.
Exactly right.
I don't think they're a contender.
Okay, well then I guess my answer, sorry, Greg. My answer would be, then say that. Say a win.
I've said it all.
No, say.
He's so wrong right now. Oh my God. What he's trying to say to Brou is just not fair, because he doesn't believe that the Minnesota Vikings are a contender. When the New Orleans Saints went 2-0, he didn't think that they were a contender. He says this all the time. He doesn't think that the 49ers were a contender. He still thinks that the Bengals are a contender, even though that they're 1-4. So he's saying what Brou is saying. He's trying to say what Brou is doing is wrong, when Nick does it his very self. He literally does it his very self. I mean, we literally, again, he gives us the rankings of who he thinks is a contender. He does not think that the Minnesota Vikings are anything. He sees the Commanders. The Commanders are 4-1 right now, okay? 4-1, beating a Bengals who Nick thinks is actually a really good team, a decent team, and hasn't given up on them, who have beat all these other teams again to make them 4-1, and yet he says fun but not sustainable. That's literally what he had written down for the Commanders and the Vikings, for that matter. So he doesn't believe in them. Why doesn't he believe in the Commanders then? They're 4-1, and he said, if the Cowboys win, they have a top record in the NFC, and if that doesn't make you a believer, then nothing will. Well, the Commanders have a literal top record in the NFL right now, along with the Vikings, and yet, last time I checked, you're not a believer in those teams. So therefore, nothing will make you a believer. I mean, literally, the Vikings have beaten teams that he thinks are better than them. The 49ers, the Packers, the Texans. If beating those teams won't make you a believer, then nothing will. I rest my case.
Oh, no, a win would not make you a believer.
I said it'll make me give them some respect. They don't have that yet, because I don't think they've earned it this season. I respected them last year as much as I didn't think they could get to the Super Bowl. I give them some respect. I respect them at the beginning of the year when I said they're going to make the playoffs. They lost my respect. Now regain it.
Wild.
So good.
This impressive win for the Cowboys in my book. Simply because we've known where their struggles lie in the running game, and we haven't given them an immense amount of credit as it pertains to the Giants stopping them in the running game. You did. The Steelers stopping them in the running game. Again, you did.
They played 5 games, 2 of them.
But this is a team. This is a team, Wiles, that's coming into this game. We know their identity. We know what the Lions want to do. They want to punch them square in the mouth.
Facts.
And they are going to attempt punching them in the mouth over and over and over again. And if the Dallas Cowboys can stand the test of that and punch back and not allow the Lions to walk out with a win, I will be impressed.
Can I ask you a question, Brew? Because the hypothetical is if the Cowboys win. The Cowboys, if they win this game, will have done it without their top 3 defensive ends, including their best 2 players on defense, in Micah and DeMarcus Lawrence, against a team that the last time they played a game, because they're off a bye, I went back and checked, the lead of our show, because Monday night was, do the Lions have a claim to be the best team in the NFC? Now, you didn't say, your answer was Minnesota's got the claim, but I'm saying it was a viable question to be asked. Unless, take Minnesota out of it, because they're in a weird spot where I don't think you want to respect them, but you don't fully believe in them. If the Cowboys win this game, who in the NFC will have a better resume? A better resume. A better argument that they're the best team in the conference again, aside from Minnesota.
We'll be 6 games in.
Yes.
Resumes are, it depends on who you play. I think San Francisco's better, and I think San Francisco's going to beat them up in a couple of weeks.
So even if the Cowboys, without their guys, they win this game?
Look, this is what the Cowboys will get my respect, but they will not make me think, oh my gosh, they might win the NFC this year.
I guess then I don't know what the point of these games are.
No, Nick, you keep saying that, but you feel the same way about certain teams. If Philadelphia ends up, they should win their next 2. They'll be 4-2, and you still won't believe.
If Philadelphia, without some of their best players, beat a team with a winning record in the AFC, and then beat a team that is on this exact thing. If Philadelphia beat Pittsburgh and then Detroit to win their 3rd straight game when they were shorthanded, I would think differently of them.
No, you wouldn't, because Philly's beaten better teams than the Cowboys have. They beat Green Bay with Jordan Love. They beat New Orleans a week after New Orleans made a mockery of the Cowboys.
Yes.
And you still didn't give them any love. So it's cool. Just admit.
Exactly.
I'm not going to believe. When you say you don't believe in the Eagles, know what I'm not going to say? Then why are we playing the games? Then what's it all matter? I'm just saying. I don't believe in the Cowboys. I believe in degrees if they win this game, but I'm never going to be like, oh my gosh, this is it.
I told you,
Brew stepping up.
This guy's hot. All right,
Wait, what
you
did
got to
he
get
say?
the odd couple back.
Oh my gosh, this is it.
I told you, got to get the odd couple back. This guy's hot. All right,
Impressive win for the Cowboys.
Okay, that's the end of the clip. It just cut back to the middle of the clip for some weird reason. Yeah, what Brew is saying, obviously I already said it as well, and then I'm happy that Brew said it as well, because he's 100% right. The Eagles literally beat those teams, and yet Nick wasn't a believer. And I'm not turning this into an Eagles clip because we could talk about so many of these other teams. Last season, the Eagles are winning those games, and Nick said, I don't believe in them, I don't believe in them. And the Eagles literally beat the Chiefs, okay? The Chiefs, and he goes, I don't believe in them, I don't believe in them. So again, it's like, so then why play these games? Nick didn't believe in the Eagles when they were 10-1, so why play these games? And it's an acceptable answer to say, I don't believe in the Eagles even though they're 10-1. It's an acceptable answer to say, I don't really believe in the Steelers even though they're 3-0. Again, Nick doesn't respect the teams, or at least how those games unfolded, who the Steelers beat, okay? They just don't. Beating rookie Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos, who Nick thinks is bad, is not impressive. Okay? It's not impressive. Beating the Falcons, who Nick knows that Kirk Cousins did not look right that game, is not impressive. So yeah, you can't jump to the extreme. That's all or nothing thinking. That's a defensive mechanism. That's a defense mechanism. That is psychology 101. You literally will learn that in any introductory psychology class. And if you ever go see a therapist or a counselor, they'll talk about defense mechanisms, and it'll be this black or white splitting, all or nothing thinking, where it's just like, I don't believe in this team because of who they're playing. And it's like, well, then why are we playing? And it's like, okay, it's also a debate tactic, because it does put the other person on the back foot. And then that's why it's smart of Brou to be able to be like, well, wait a second. You say and do the similar things that I'm doing right now, but you're trying to make it look like that what I'm doing is wrong, which again then is also gaslighting. And then, we don't have to get too psychologically technical. And I feel bad because I wanted to talk about the Dallas Cowboys, which I will. And I'll make Dallas Cowboys fans happy, although I probably already made them quite angry right now. But we always try to figure out who these teams are and what they look like. Not to mention, not all wins are equal, because the Buccaneers beat the Lions, and I did not think that was an impressive win for the Buccaneers, because I don't think the Lions looked very good. And the Lions beat the Rams, and I wasn't super impressed with that win either. I was looking for things to be impressed by, and I chalk it up to a week 1 game. But I wasn't like, that's right, the Lions won, Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay, that's what the Lions do. It's how these teams play. There's different levels to it. How do they look? The Cowboys did not look good against the Giants. They did not look good against the Steelers. That's the difference. Because Nick is right. Most games are decided by 1 score or less. That is the NFL, without a shadow of a doubt. But it's different, okay? It's different. The Chiefs just were able to win against the Ravens, right? They technically could have lost or tied with a 2-point conversion, all of that. But yet you didn't come away from that game saying the Chiefs didn't look good, right? You didn't come away from that game. You didn't come away from that game with even the Ravens and saying the Ravens look bad. That even if they won, you wouldn't say, man, they got lucky, right? You wouldn't come away with some of those statements like that. But you could with many other teams that were winning, that were able to kind of get on by with some wins. So yeah, it's not all equal. Like Nick says all the time with his own rankings, this isn't the standings. He says this all the time. This isn't the standings. If you want the standings, go to, Newsweek, whatever, News Today, whatever publication he uses. So yeah, obviously that means you're watching these games to try to figure out who do you think is good versus bad. So to come out and say that these games don't matter is such an extreme defense, when Nick himself literally does it. He does not just use the standings, because then he even said this team has one of the best. He'll say the Cowboys have one of the better records in the NFC. Why does that mean anything? Why does it not mean anything for you, Nick? Then why does it not mean anything for you? Why do you still have the Bengals so high up on your tiers, even though the Bengals are 1-4? Why? Exactly. Why did you still have the Saints at the way bottom, even though they were 2-0? Why do you not believe in the Commanders and the Vikings, even though that they're 5-0 and 4-1? Exactly. So it's just crazy. Crazy. But to answer this question directly, can Dallas make you a believer Sunday? No, I agree with Brou. It won't make me a believer Sunday. It'll earn my respect. But if and only if the Cowboys win And it's not because the Lions have just played bad, right? They played like they played against the Buccaneers, right? If the Cowboys end up winning that game, I would say, the Lions keep playing very inconsistent. I don't know what is going on with the Lions. Because let's not pretend like the Lions have looked like a juggernaut. Because saying that the Lions are a great team in the NFL, or that they're the best team in the NFL, I've said this now in multiple videos today, it's hard for me to figure out who's really great this season. Because it's just like anytime a team feels like they got momentum, they then have an ugly loss, or they had an ugly start and now they're starting to get momentum, or they had great momentum in the beginning and then they had back-to-back losses. Like, it's been very weird. And again, the Chiefs are winning, but it kind of feels like, those games aren't really giving me a lot of confidence. So I think if the Cowboys beat the Lions, what it would say to me probably more than anything is that the Cowboys aren't as bad as I maybe thought. The Lions aren't as good as I thought. And I would start to put these teams really in just a big, gigantic bag of just, they're kind of just good. They're not awful. They're kind of just average. Kind of what Tom Brady has been saying, honestly. And I don't think what Tom Brady is saying is the best thing to say, especially considering he works, within the NFL now. Maybe if he just had a podcast, but considering who Tom Brady is. But Tom Brady keeps saying that this is just average play right now. He's been ripping the NFL this season. He's like, this is just mediocre play. And even Mangini has been saying the same thing. It's just like average play. And I'm not prepared to say that confidently, but this season has just been a mixed bag, honestly, from my viewpoint. So because the Lions, if the Lions lose, giving their best punch and the Cowboys win, that would make me very impressive. If this is just like an ugly, weird game, Jared Goff fumbles on his own 40 and he throws an interception that was like, how did you make that throw? Like, what the heck were you doing? Right? Like, then I would be like, okay, the Lions lost that game more than the Cowboys. But the Lions also gave up a lot of points to Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks. And it's not like the Seattle Seahawks have this high-powered, rocking and a rolling offense. So the Lions have some genuine questions for their own defense, which is why all these teams seem to have like some pretty legitimate issues. The Chiefs do not have a high-powered offense, but they have a dominant defense. The Ravens have a flowing offense, but have a terrible defense right now. The Bengals, Joe Burrow is balling out, but the Bengals can't stop anything right now. So that's why these teams are just kind of a mess right now. All of these teams, quite frankly. It's what makes a team like the Minnesota Vikings, like, they're doing great both offensively and defensively. But I think with the Cowboys, it would definitely be more impressive to me if they're able to find a way to win this game. But yeah, I wouldn't be a believer. Like Chris is, like Broussard is saying, I wouldn't say, oh, the Cowboys, they're my favorite to now win the NFC or something like that, right? It would definitely impress me and I would find interesting. Again, unless the Lions really just kind of lay an egg or play poorly, kind of like they did against the Rams and like they did against the Buccaneers. And again, before someone, Dallas Cowboys fans, jump on me and say, you're moving the target, you're moving the goalpost, go watch my videos with the Lions. After the Lions even beat the Seattle Seahawks, I criticized them. And it was through the herd the next day, because I think they played on Thursday or Monday, I forget when it was, but it was a standalone game, and it was that next day, so either Tuesday or Friday. I said that. I was like, yeah, it was a great game, had some excitement, but like it was also like kind of a weird win as well. I don't agree with some of the coaching, and yeah, I still have some concerns. So it's like, I'm not prepared to be like the Lions are this dominant juggernaut team, so therefore if the Cowboys beat them, it's like, oh my God, the Cowboys just beat them. It would be an impressive win, without a doubt. But even Vegas thinks that it's just a 3-point game, right? So it's not like the Lions are favored to win this game by 7, right? It's not a 7, 8, 9.5 spread that we see done all the time. And, like the 49ers were favored to win this game, to beat the Cardinals. They were favored like 7+. The Eagles are favored to beat the Browns by like 9.5. So it's like winning this game, again, would be definitely impressive. But Vegas is even considering the injuries as well. So clearly Vegas doesn't have strong beliefs in the Lions either. Because I know Vegas also doesn't necessarily have a strong belief in the Cowboys either. based off of their spread as well as their current updated Super Bowl odds. So yeah, it's just interesting. This game will definitely be fun to watch, as most games are these days. And yeah, I think really ultimately, if the Lions blow out, let's say the Lions blow out the Cowboys, and the Cowboys can't do, I think it's okay for the Cowboys to give up a lot of points, but I don't think it's okay for the Cowboys to not score a decent amount of points. If the Cowboys get rolled, and it is a game where it's like 35-7 or something like that, right? That would be more problematic. But if the score is like something crazy, like 45-28, so it's still a pretty big loss, but Dak Prescott still put up pretty decent numbers and still put up numbers. Outside of them maybe getting a huge lead, and it's just like truly prevent defense, I think it would really be more unacceptable for the Cowboys to not. Unless, and again, this is why it always matters, unless the Lions get out to such a great big lead and then they continue to stay aggressive defensively, and they could just have the chance to just go after Dak nonstop, right? And just kind of similar to what the Ravens did against the Bills. Like, that's why when you get a big lead in football, it can really kind of go either way. Some teams just do prevent defenses, and it's like, okay, fine, you can get your yards, you can get some points, we don't care, we have such a big lead, we're just trying to, not give up the big play. But other defenses are like, nope, we're going to continue to attack you, we're going to take chances, so we don't care if we give up a big play, but we are going to try to just come after you nonstop. So that's why it's always hard to predict what a game will mean based off of the outcome or based off of even the score. That's why they always say, like, oh, the Cowboys win by 7, would that be impressive? It's like, well, how did the game unfold? What actually happened? Did Jared Goff have 2 of the worst interception we've seen all season, right? Like, what's actually happening here? So this game will be exciting, though. I do think the Lions want this win badly coming off the bye. They feel like that they were robbed last year, and I think they do. They want to come in there and dominate this game. They want it to be no questions asked. We are the best team. We are better than Dallas. The refs robbed us last year. Let's go. So you should get probably your most prepared Lions team than they have been all season. They're going to be their most well-rested. Let's go. So that'll be interesting, because then the last question I'll ask is this. Nick says that if the Cowboys win, it's impressive and that they're a believer and they should be considered a top team in the NFL. And if that's the case, then what happens if the Lions roll the Cowboys? Does that mean that the Cowboys are just at all nowhere near on the level of the Lions and therefore should not be considered a top team? Probably. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Dallas Cowboys versus the Lions? Is there anything that they can do to make you a believer, or are you already a believer? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.